This PSA was brought to you by the Peter G Show.
You may have second thoughts after this show.
Don't drink the faucet.
We're really talented. We should get Oscars.
Just pick out a car, for Christ's sake.
No, hi, my name is Peter.
Yeah, I want.
Here's good.
Yeah.
Madam Perry.
I need to get back in the genie bottle.
Louis from Pennsylvania, you're on.
He likes it.
It's showtime.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.
Ta-da! I'm telling you, I'm glad I wasn't in a spaceship trying to get to the moon right now, because I felt like my oxygen supply got cut off. I'm hoping that you guys are hearing me right now, because all of a sudden it was like, Houston, we have a problem. How the hell is everybody? Life is good, no matter what gets thrown at you, and I mean that. I just had to regroup. So, hope everybody's doing well. It's June. There went May. Now it's June. And the months are flying by. We're already halfway through the year. We're getting into the halfway through the year. What a crazy year it's been, but I'm grateful. I am grateful. We got a really good show for you tonight, and despite all the, down to the wire, last second little issue that incurred, we decided to go on, and I think I might be sounding a little funkier than normal, because I'm always sounding pretty funky. However, show must go on, and we do have a great show tonight, and I did not want to let it go unless it was absolutely out of my control, and this was doable, and I said we're going for it because I feel it's imperative. I feel it's that important, and that's what we're doing tonight. I'm going to have Miss Marcia Earhart on the show. She's an author. She's got a book right here, and it's Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief. Marcia is a trained educational certified life, grief, and trauma and mental health counselor, and she also has an organization called the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, and with good reason. She's lived a hell of a story that we're going to hear from her tonight, and she's going to be on the show about handling things that are just completely out of your control. So if anybody knows more, I'm bitching about some audio issues, but if anybody knows about dealing with things that, you wish would never happen in your life, she does. And I know that there's a gazillion of you out there that understand the same thing too, but she's going to share her story. We're going to talk about how she got through what she got through, and we're going to talk about how and what she does now to help others get through with what they are going through tonight on this show right here. So hopefully you'll be tuning in. Tell a friend. I guarantee you have people in your life that are having issues. I do. It's tough. So share with your friends, okay? That's what's going on tonight. Before we get started, I think I definitely need this right now. I want to get our astrological forecast for the week going from Moon Mistress Tarot, because let's face it, folks, we need all the help we can get. You can, we got to have some kind of accountability, whether it's with your God or whoever, but the universe is always going with or without you, and I choose to be with me. And she's just going to tell you a little bit about what's going on for this week, this month, and all that. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Hello, my loves. And what you've been waiting for
is lining up perfectly during this month of June. It's one of the luckiest months of the year, so be prepared, my darlings. Welcome the magic and trust in the timing. Let's see what's going on. We're going to start off with my air signs. So for all my Aquarius, Geminis, and for my beautiful Libras, look at you with that star card. That's making a wish. That's having faith. That's a definite yes if you're working on something. For earth signs, my darlings, there is Queen of Pentacles. So for all of my Capricorns, my Virgos, and for my beautiful Taurus, money, honey. Again, you're working hard and it's coming through for you, my loves. Let's see what's going on with my water signs. All right, my darlings, how about some love? So my water signs, my Scorpios, my Cancers, and my Pisces, be open to it. Also, June is all about love, the sweetness of it. We have the strawberry moon happening. And my darlings, for my fire signs, we're going with some fire. That is King of Wands. So get out there and do it. You have the action. You have the power to make it happen, my darlings. And that is for Sagittarius, Aries, and for my Leos. For more, my darlings, on what's going on in the stars for you, moonmistresstarot.com. And as always, back to you, Peter.
And back to me, Peter, it is. Thank you, Moon Mistress Tarot. To find out more about your astrological journey and your cosmic connection, go to moonmistresstarot.com. Let her tell you where your destiny goes. Most people want to find out about their love life and all this kind of stuff, but, you know, I just take this stuff, put it in the back of your head, take it with a grain of salt, because, again, the universe is definitely constantly moving, and you want it to be in your favor. So take advantage of it. Go check her out. I want to talk real quick before we get going. I want to talk about last night's election in California, which, as you know, I've just recently left California after 34 years. I've had it up to here. I love California. The weather was great. You don't get rained on out of nowhere. But they're going for a new mayor in LA and a new governor. And God bless it, the Governor Gavin Newsom has run that place to the ground, and it's time for change. It's time. They need to get that place back on track and quit stealing money. But as I talked about last week, Spencer Pratt, regular guy, said, I've had enough, and he decided to run for mayor. And he's going up against some big odds, because the machine does not want to let strangers in, because it's going to mess up their game. And I was hoping that he would have waxed Karen Bass's butt, but that didn't happen. But he's in the running now, because if he had gotten over 51%, he would have won automatically and not have to go, he would have won on the primaries and not have to go on to the final two. But he did make it. And they're still counting votes. Look what's going on here. Karen Bass got 35%. They're still counting ballots. It blows my mind. Spencer Pratt made 30%. Nithya Raman, she is a Democratic Communist Socialist Democrat, which is basically communist. And so she didn't stand a chance. But Spencer Pratt is just telling the truth and exposing them all. But he has a good long fight to win. But he's got some great campaigns going. And I'm hoping he's got 5 more months to hopefully pull it together and show the world why he needs to be in office. And doesn't matter because he's never been mayor. Because I got to tell you, if Karen Bass wants to talk about experience, how they've run Los Angeles into the ground, if that counts as experience, you don't need experience. Spencer is smart enough to know he's going to surround himself with good people and make some smart moves at turning that place around. But I just wanted to talk about that because, it's really important. That's a major city. That's one of the biggest cities in the world. And they've killed, and I left. I've had enough. I'm tired of giving away what little money I have and getting nothing out of it. Again, the weather was great, but don't need it anymore. Hollywood is dying on the vine. Producers and people big in the industry are delivering DoorDash because the movie industry, they've killed it with taxes and all the red tape trying to make and film entertainment in Los Angeles. And so people have gone other places. I've gone other places too. It's that simple. Don't need it. Would have loved to hang around and been there, but I don't need it. And I can always jump on a plane if I have to be there again. So we're going to be following that. Just wanted to talk about it because last night that was the big deal. Hey, we got a comment. How about that? Let me see what's going on. I'm with you. Let's see what we got here. I'm with you, Peter. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about that kind of stuff. Again, I get my times when I get to talk about current events, and I will be talking about that. Again, I apologize for the late start tonight. I will be up very late tonight, ripping what little hair I have left, figuring out why this whole everything looks pretty simple, like from the camera line up. But believe me, sometimes I wish I just did an audio podcast and it'd be so much simpler. But when you start adding TV into the whole deal and cameras and multi-streaming, stay in school, kids. I dream of the day when I can relinquish these rights and have a crew again. But again, since I've moved, it's all on me. But that's okay. Got to take with the good with the bad. We'll be back on track. And tonight, I don't think it's going to disappoint. I may sound a little bit abnormal tone-wise, but my guest will be just fine because I know it's good on her end. We just have to work on me. It's always me. Why me? Why me? Me. All good. All right. So here's what we're going to do, because I want to get Marcia on in just a minute. But before we get her on, I just want to hear from my good friends from Clean Star Products with their money-saving fuel additive DX1 driver, because let's face it, folks, cars are expensive to repair and gas is expensive, and why not take care of your vehicle? Because good food, good body, and that goes with your car too, because it's an expensive investment, and it's not really, it's a tool, but you need them. We have to have them. So don't worry, I'll be back in and then we'll get Marcia on the show.
Hello, it's Tyrone Thompson here with Clean Star Products, and we're here with William.
High-end car service.
And we've just serviced his Cadillac Escalade 2024. And we're going to be giving it a go to see what kind of results he'll be getting in his fuel mileage and any performance differences, and be checking with him later.
All right.
Thank you, William, for participating in our environmental program. We're here with High-End Car Services, my friend William, who's been using DX1 for a small time now. What kind of results have you been getting?
Up to 45.1 miles per gallon best results, and the engine has been quieter, and I can definitely feel the power in the engine. I have a diesel.
Thank you so much. We're going to keep going with the program and check in with you later. We appreciate you. The Long Life Engine Program with DX1 Driver is the only safe environmental product for your high mileage engine. DX1 is a non-toxic, clean-burning oil that goes into your fuel and your engine oil, providing lubricity for gasoline and diesel engines. You save on average 10% gasoline and 15% diesel fuel consumption. Call now for a price quote and place your order today. It's the Long Life Engine Program from Clean Star Products and Tyrone Thompson.
That's right, folks. DX1 Driver. I got two words for you. It works. Makes a peace sign, too. It does work. I use it myself. I wouldn't have been talking about anything unless I tried it and make sure I know what I'm talking about. And I noticed the difference within about 3 to 4 tankfuls. I drive a big vehicle, V8, needs get up and go. And I like, one of my vehicles is a high mileage vehicle. I've driven this thing since day one, and it's got a lot of miles on it. And I noticed the difference. Put one of these little bitty bottles right here. Now, the bottle for a V8 is a little bit bigger. This takes care of your average 4-door sedan. You pour one of these bottles into a clean oil change, all right? Lasts the whole oil change. So that's like 5,000-6,000 miles on your average American automobile. If you have a Mercedes or a Bentley, it's about 10 or 12,000 miles. And then when you fill up your tank with fuel, you put this little bottle into your fuel tank, put the gas in your tank, and drive. It's that simple. It's really simple, not that hard. And just drive. You'll start noticing a difference. As I said, I noticed it within about 3 tankfuls. It started cleaning things out, more lubricity. These engines now, they have tighter tolerances to get better gas mileage, but there's a lot more friction than the old school engines. And that's why they don't last as long. And you want to take care of those engines and keep them as lubricated as possible, because repairs are super expensive. So trust me when I tell you, this helps everything move a lot easier. And when things are moving easier, it could go a lot easier without sucking up as much gas. Again, good food, good body. But don't believe me. Go to their website, www.cleanstarproducts.com. There's a phone number there. They want you to call them, and I'm going to tell you why. 310-200-8931. Because if you call them, they will answer all your questions personally, which they really like because they're proud of the product, because they know they have a product that works. But also, if you mention you saw it on the Peter G Show, they will send you 5 bottles for the price of 4. And that makes a great starter kit because 1 bottle goes in the clean oil change. And it gives you 4 full tanks of fuel to definitely notice the difference. I promise you, it does a job. And then after that, use it once every other tank, with every tank, depending on your budget, once a month. Good food, good body. I can't say that enough. That's the only thing I could make it make sense to you, but it does work. Call them, 310-200-8931. Mention you saw it on the Peter G Show. They will take care of you. 5 bottles for the price of 4, but you have to mention that, all right? And I love these guys because they know what I do and they still sponsor me, so I can't argue with that, but we're good. All right. Let's take a quick sip here because I'm telling you, when it comes down to, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I don't like it. And tonight was one of those nights, but we are here. So thank God. And I love you guys for tuning in. And for the people who aren't watching right now, because let's face it, in California, it's still almost only 7 o'clock in the evening. People are driving home from work. But for those who will be watching in the future, and that's where we really get our momentum. Thank you for watching and supporting. I love you guys for all you do. I know it takes a lot of dedication, and don't think it goes unnoticed. I'm very grateful to all of you. So salute. Ooh. Smooth. Needed that one. Definitely needed that one. But all right, so here's what's going to happen. I have sitting in the wings patiently, and I do mean patiently. She's a saint for sitting with me while I ripped everything apart over here, just trying to get it to back to normal, because I'm used to normal. Who doesn't like normal? Normal is good. Still exciting, but it's normal. But tonight it wasn't that kind of excitement. It was frantic. What the hell is going wrong? And as we were just talking prior to starting this show, it could be anything as simple as a little bitty cable not pushed in. I've had those moments too. I think when it comes to incidences, I've had them all. I'm old enough to have gone through enough crap in my life to where, oh yeah, it's another one of those. But at the same time, while it's going down, I don't like it. I want to just hit the button. We start plenty early and let's go. So let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, I have for you, I'm going to let her tell you, but she's been patiently waiting in the background. So right here, right now, author of the book, Gripping Grace in the Garden of Grief. Again, Miss Marcia Earhart.
Hello. How are you? So good to finally be able to talk and to hear one another and be live.
Kinda, yeah. I I can only imagine what I'm sounding like right now, because I had an incident a few weeks ago that a little button got reset and I didn't catch it, which is highly unusual. I normally, because I had a woman that her daughter got into a car accident and she had to cancel on me 3 hours for the show. So I'm turning the show around because now I got to fly by the seat of my pants, which I've done. I'm used to it. Hi, my name is Peter. But I was in such a frantic mode of resetting everything that I missed something. So, and it sounded like hell. It just really did. But show must go on. And thank you for waiting patiently in the background while first we had a little problem with your end, and then all of a sudden it was my end, and blah, blah, blah. Here we are. As long as we show up, that's half the battle. Why don't you do me a favor and give everybody a brief synopsis of who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of how it all started and all that, because you have a really interesting story, and that's how come you're here. I get a lot of people that pitch to me, but yours kind of hits home for a lot of people, and I guess the old saying, you're not alone, once again, is in the old saying. So tell everybody who you are, and let's go from there.
Well, I'm Marcia Earhart, and I am a life, grief, trauma, brain, mental health coach and mediator, heart sync minister, author and speaker, and the co-founder of the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, which is a nonprofit to help people breathe again, move again, and live again from trauma and grief. Trauma and grief happen to be the number one contributing factor to the mental health crisis that we face today. So we've been boots on the ground since 2017, serving, and we now serve people all over the US and in 7 countries.
Wow. Okay. Here's the thing. I mean, you started this whole thing in 2017, but there's a real good reason why you started this whole thing, which we'll get into. But before you did this, who were you before all of this?
Well, I'm a mom of
Yeah.
5 children, a wife, an educator, a lover of souls, and just I am very engaged, love and am passionate about life, enjoy going to the beach, enjoy a great song. And so I just feel like for me, my life has been full of being a daughter, a friend, a multitude of roles that I've enjoyed and still enjoy.
You can say that now, but I got to think that we're going to tell your story first to start things off. But you had some traumatic events that have happened in your life. I mean, to me, it's almost the most unthinkable thing that could pretty much happen to a parent, and that all started years before you started this whole thing, correct?
Yes, yes. So growing up, I had 17 losses by the time I was 18 years old. And my mom and dad really were amazing at showing me how to grieve. And I praise God for their example, because only God knew what life would bring. I did not count how many losses I had after 18 years old. I just know that they were full my first 17 years, and they were tragic losses. And as life went on, I had numerous other tragic losses, but then in 2011, we faced one of the most horrific losses, which was, or 2014, I'm sorry, in 2014, February 14th, we lost our oldest son in a tragic car accident. He was in law school and he actually passed on our street. And so our life imploded, and we no longer were the family that we used to be. Everything ceased in that moment, and we entered that place that we needed to grieve the loss of dreams, the loss of who we were as a family, the loss of who my husband and I were as a couple, because we would never see those people yet again. And then as we are in the process of entering that grief and allowing ourselves to process and to have the exchange of releasing and receiving, in 2019, our second son, Mark, was murdered in October the 26th of 2019 with his girlfriend from an ex-boyfriend of hers who flew from Baltimore to murder them in Florida, leaving their 6-month-old baby alone. And they were found over 40 hours after the murder, and the little girl was left there, but she did not die. She is doing well and living with her grandmother, who is now her mother. So we understand the compounded grief, the pain of loss of so much. And it wasn't just our children, it was their community. It was the community that we had. It was friends that we had. It was relationships. And so in all of it, there were new things that were birthing, and we chose to let those new things come and take on the birthing process that they needed to.
That's again, look, we all know people, when you say you've had 17 losses, I mean, as we get older, even as children, I mean, there's older people in our life that pass away. I mean, who doesn't get ill? Some people go way too soon, physically, because of cancers or some ailment, or, then you have accidents, as you've spoken of. So, I mean, we're all losing people, and and to me, it's all tragic if you love somebody. I mean, love is love. Your friends, I mean, my parents both. I think I was so blessed. I mean, my parents died in their early 90s. And they're going, well, come on, Peter. I mean, you can't ask for too much more than that. It's like, but in my mind, 150 isn't old enough. You want them around, and do you grieve about it? Sure, I think about them every single day. And so at the same time, I have people in my life that are the victims of the losses and there's a handful of my friends people that I know that are really having a hard time living with the emotion. And this is where you come in, where I'm going to go inside of you a little bit, if you don't mind opening up, because handling it, everybody's different and everybody handles things differently. So, I mean, if we can start back with your first son, I mean, things like that can tragically even break up a marriage.
Yes.
So I'm sure that you've gone through the gamut of all those emotions and how you stick together and your recipe, so to speak, or and it takes you're married. How many years you been married?
36.
That's a gold star right there, because most people can't go 5 years nowadays. It's very 15 minutes. The minute there's a bump in the road, it's I quit, and it's very difficult. There you go. I got one. It's Kimberly says it's a difficult learning process. But yeah. So let's go back. Your first son died in an automobile accident, which again, it's a tragic. Nobody ever leaves their house thinking they're never coming home. I don't know what's worse, being ill and preparing to die, or just cutting it short. How, that's your first time getting this shock. Was that you said you've lost a lot of people, but that had to be the ultimate blow right there.
Yes, I would say as a parent, it is the ultimate blow. The other part of that is there had been a foreshadowing for years, and we had a confirmation in 2008 at a conference where Louis Giglio, who is a pastor, was preaching that Sterling, our oldest, would die in a car accident.
Really?
Yes, we did. And there were friends that knew about that. Our family knew about that. Sterling knew that. I knew that. And we had that discussion. So one can say, well, why would the Lord allow you to know that? And my answer is, just like as parents, we try to prepare our children for bad things. So does our Heavenly Father. And he knew when that implosion came that there would need to be resources. And I had equipping, because when I came back from that conference, I grieved for 9 months, and he prepared me with a lot of tools and resources to be able to pull from. And one of the things, when you were talking, when we are faced with that, we have to give ourselves permission to grieve, because there's two ways of grieving. We either grieve hopelessly, which means a spirit of grief comes on us, or we grieve with the hope. Our family chose to grieve with hope, which changes the way you walk out grief, because we can live from the tree of life, or we can be consumed in the tree of death after someone passes. And the tree of death loves to consume us, because death in itself, we feel dead. I mean, I felt like my skin, my outer skin, had been stripped off of my body. I felt so vulnerable and just naked to everything in my life. And I hurt in a way I had never hurt in my life, because it was as someone had sawed half of my body in half, and I was missing such a significant part of what made me a mother. And yes, I was a mom to 4 more children, but I think each child has a separate place, and they do, which again, in losing the second son, I actually have 2 treasure chests, one for each son, and then a treasure chest that holds them both in my heart. So when I grieve one separate from the other, I can go to that treasure chest and I can pull from memories and sweet times that I had with that child. And I can grieve and have those memories that can help bring restoration. And it's the same with the other child. And then there are times I grieve them both when maybe we're having a family time together and they're both absent and I'm grieving them both. So, and I think that was the kindness of the Lord for me, because I didn't know that. And I remember one particular day I was overwhelmed in my grief, and Mark had passed, and it had been some time that he had passed, but I was still missing Sterling. And this was hard because you don't finish. Like you just said, you still think of your mom and dad. It's not like we finish grieving, but I said to the Lord, I'm feeling guilty right now because I feel I need to be missing Mark. And the Lord said, look, let me show you what I have for you. And he showed me these treasure chests for each of my kids. And therefore I could then grieve without that guilt and know this is the place where all of our memories are contained. And I can step in this place, and it's precious and it's healing. And then there's this place where they're both there that's healing. So I think we have to allow ourselves in that vulnerability to step into the healing process. When we don't, it does cause mental health issues, and it causes physical issues because our body keeps the score of the toxicity that is entering in from the trauma and the grief that we've experienced.
Let me ask you something.
Yes,
Do you think everything happens for a reason?
I do.
I mean, getting murdered, is that just wrong place? Do you think that's just wrong place at the wrong time? That was just not really in the cards, or that was just one type of so-called exit plan, or whatever some people may want to call things?
I personally believe that all of our days are numbered. It says it in Scripture.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Of when we come and when we die.
Yeah.
And I can't change that for any of my children. I can't change it for me or my husband or any of my friends. And so now I could be in denial of that. I could not like it. I can become angry. But there's something called free will. And a man chose to go and kill my son and to kill his ex-girlfriend, which he had been estranged from supposedly for 1.5 years, but we found out later he really wasn't. So see, there's always a story behind the story.
Right.
And so my son happened to be caught in the crosshairs of that. And again, there's some decisions my son made because they had an altercation probably a year before, and again, he was walking out life the way he thought he should, but this man came back. And could he have known that? No, I don't think we can always know every single thing. So I believe everything is purposeful. Everything. Did God take my son? No. Did he allow free will? Yes. Was it in the plan of that day that my son would die? Yes. Was it in the plan that my son would die in the car accident? Yes. Could I have given him a bigger car? Could I have taken and driven him to and from? I mean, I think we have to be honest that if I shoulda, coulda, woulda, that right there is a killer to people who are grieving. It will take them in the darkest hole and in the deepest pit.
Correct. That's was again what I was coming up to next, because I know that there is a plethora of people, both that I know that are in this world, that don't have the ability to, they're taking themselves down because of their grieving and just letting that grief destroy them internally, externally, all of the above. And I see it all the time. And,
Yes.
you just, I mean, I'm not saying that you're supposed to say, hey, look, it happened, just get over it. That's not
No.
how, but there's these people that I have a pretty big circle, and the more people you know, the more bound things are going to happen, both natural death, accidents, illnesses, you name it. And I don't like it. And again, we, the living, have to bear that cross, so to speak. And I'm not saying that it's going to be a pleasure. You're just going to move on, but I know people that are personally they don't have it mastered, or not that you ever will, of how to learn to live with it. And
well, first of all, it's it gets incorporated with you. It is not something you're going to get over. You learn to incorporate your loved ones with you and bring them forward with you. I'm not leaving anybody behind. Every tradition that we've changed, I'm still bringing my loved ones with me in the new traditions, but we needed to make some exchanges. Some things are very painful to keep doing. And we had to sit down as a family and say, what things can we forgo? What new things do we want to do? And it's an exchange. I'm letting go of something that's triggering and hurting me, but preserving the memory, but also starting something new, because I want to be able to live and be present for myself, my husband, my children, my friends. And in the giftings that I have, I'm not dead, and I'm not going to let myself come into living in the tree of death. It's a choice. And I think in grief we have to choose. So every day, Peter, when I woke up, even the first morning, because we didn't sleep because they came at 2 a.m., the first thing we did was talk about the things we were thankful for. And we did it every day. The things we were thankful for. Even in the loss didn't mean we didn't cry. We did cry. We wept. And Jesus wept with me. He wept with my family. And we didn't try to act like we had it together. We were very honest. We were very transparent with people. But we also had the hope that he is a redeemer. He's a restorer. And I believe I'm living proof of that. I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. So in the Sterling Rose Sanctuary, I work with people every day who have experienced profound losses in their life. Children, grandchildren, spouses, friends. And I hear the details. I'm not triggered by that because I've been healed by my losses. So when someone's with me, I'm present in their pain. You can't do that if you're not healed. And so healing can happen. And when we're healed, guess what happens? Healed people heal people. Just like hurting people hurt people. Which side of the fence would you rather be on?
No, I hear you. I do. But it's tough. Look, even though I was lucky, again, and my parents died at a pretty darn good age, I got to be a complete adult by the time they passed. It's still, I mean, I'm talking about them now, and I can easily start getting teared up. I mean, sure. I just do, because that's love.
It is love. The love stays with you, though. You haven't given it up.
No.
But it also doesn't have to cripple you. Sure. That love was life-giving. My son's love, it was life-giving to me. It still is life-giving. Your parents' love is still life-giving. My parents' love, they're both gone. It's life-giving to me.
How's your husband doing?
My husband now is doing well. We struggled. We had a struggle.
Sure.
He went in the tree of death. He did. He was there. And I couldn't get him. We couldn't reach him. And we almost didn't make it. And in 2000, I guess it was 2018. 2018. It was the year before Mark passed. I said, you've got to get back and live among the living. You're among the dead, and I can't live among the dead. I'm living. My kids are here, my other kids, and I'm going to be present. I'm present for you. And he made a decision that he would step into being proactive, and he did. And we had 1 year where we worked on our marriage and got really strengthened again, and then Mark died. And honestly, if we hadn't had that year, I don't think we would have made the second round because the fractures were so deep for him. And I want everyone to understand they were deep for me, but I made a choice to go forth with healing. There is a difference. My husband did that. Maybe I should have, if I'd done this, if I'd done that, because he felt like maybe he could have some change the outcome. And as a father, he felt he failed not being present for his 21-year-old son when he died tragically in an automobile accident. And, so in the same sense, when we face tragedy, depending on your belief system, I believe it exposes right theology and wrong theology if you're a believer. And there was some wrong theology. And that has to be dealt with as well. Or either we get seeped in the wrong theology and it overtakes us. And so someone can go, what do you mean wrong theology? That you're being punished for something you did, therefore God took your child. That's wrong theology. If that's the case, none of us would be here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being honest, none of us would be here because we've all done things. So somebody would be remiss of our life because we would be being punished.
I've never really had anybody kind of throw that accusation out. I mean, but I guess there are people that would, if they wanted to be mean, they could use that as a type of, I don't even know how you want to call it. I don't know. Again, I don't think there could be anything worse in a parent life. I don't care if your son was 60 years old. It's not supposed to be that way in general. You're supposed to go before them. And right at the point where your husband's starting to, have it more together, if that's ever really possible.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he gets kicked in the head again. And I mean, that could easily have thrown you into a point of no return, easily.
Well, and I think physically it did throw him into some places because the shock, the impact for him, he still was working through the trauma of our first because he had just started really engaging in that in 2018. So to hear this and again, the police officers, the sheriffs were there, and their delivery was so horrific on both incidences. Really, they need training. My husband, if there had not been a brick wall, he probably would have fallen because he fell up against the wall because the shock of it. And I remember grabbing him and holding him and saying, we're going to go through this together and God's got us. And he said, you're right. We've done this. We can do this. It's not what we want to do. It's not what we want to do. But we knew we had gone through it and we could, and not just survive, but we could thrive through it. And that's really, and so we've worked on us to get us, and I don't expect us to be who we used to be. I think that's something that everybody, you can't ever go back to who you used to be. You've got to be able to give grace that you're emerging into a new person. I believe just like the caterpillar, we go into a cocoon, and in grief, there's this cocoon and we emerge as a new butterfly. And that's where we've opted to go both sides. We're going into the cocoon. It's very dark, but there's a lot changing in that darkness. And then there are things that start to evolve, and we come out and we get to beat our wings and we get to start life in a new way. And that's the beauty that comes from being broken open with such pain.
Look, I can to say that it doesn't change, it wouldn't change you as a person and or take a chunk out of you, I believe is a huge understatement. I mean, again, I can't imagine that, because even the thought of such a thing just can rip me mentally, just thinking about it. I mean, it's like, again, I just can't think of a worse tragedy. I just can't. And I feel for a lot of these people who have had, such as yourself, who's had to experience this, and then not once, but twice. And I know it goes on in lots of families. I'm sure it does. And even worse, look at these things like where half a family gets wiped out in a car accident or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
And then a couple of young kids are left all alone. They're
Yes.
going, holy crap! You want to talk about how much what did they do to deserve this? And having to live with that their whole life, they have to take it with them and try to understand without it destroying them too.
Well, and in the midst of dealing with that, from 20, our youngest was 12, and my two kids, my 12 and 16-year-old, immediately lost any aspect of childhood they would have. So my 12-year-old never had anybody after that point that could relate to him, because he's had one of the most significant losses a sibling can have. Losing a sibling, I think, is even on a much harder level, especially for young children. At least as an adult, I have the capacity to have some depth of understanding. And so then we went into the struggle of his mental health, and we almost lost him. So not only are we grieving and trying to overcome the loss of Sterling, we now are fighting. I'm fighting with every fiber of my being for my son still to stay alive and to breathe life into him, to help him have the tools to thrive. And he's doing great now. He is doing amazingly well, but there were some very rough years. And I will be honest with you, it was harder in one particular moment where I felt we almost lost him, or we were going to lose him, than losing Sterling, because Steele was living. And there's a sense of powerlessness when mental health comes on to someone, and there's depression and there's suicidal ideation, and you're fighting with every fiber in your being for that person. That's the reality of life and how we were having to face life. And so the multitude of battles that we were facing, it was clearly like a juggling act. And some days, everything was just going, like just hitting us all at once.
Again, I don't wish it even on my worst enemy. I don't think, because it's maybe I think I've labeled myself, especially as I'm getting older now, as being pretty hypersensitive. If that makes any kind of sense. I feel for others' pain.
And you're an empath. You're an empath.
I guess I don't know what it is. I just think I'm just getting a lot more sensitive to and more aware as I get older to other people's issues and pains, and just. When you're younger, you're a lot more bulletproof. And I mean, I'm doing okay. I'm healthy. I'm very grateful, like I said, for every day I wake up, no matter, even tonight's little setback really wasn't a setback. Here we are. And, but I can watch the news and just really start feeling the issue of what I'm seeing. I'm going, holy crap. I'm just like, it's like, it's not a low testosterone issue. You know what I mean? It's just, I just feel for these people, because I know how painful it's gotta be. It's not even close to what the actual people have to endure, such as yourself. And it just bothers me a lot. And again, when I see people that I know that I can reach out to, and I've been reaching out to certain people that I know, and they're just there's no response, right? I'm going, well, they just got to go through what they got to go through, but I do feel they need some sort of guidance.
Yeah.
But you know how it is, like sometimes you won't listen like to your closest friend, but you'll listen to a stranger.
Sure.
Does that make it? Yeah.
Yes.
So tell me again, like when you're dealing with people, how do people end up coming to you? Do they come to you? Do they call you? And what do you do? I mean, give me like an example of like some things, and what's the what's the outcome?
Well, we have all sorts of people reach out to us. So we have people reach out to us that have lost a child and have lost parents. We have people that we work with that have been sexually, ritually abused. Work with a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of emotional, spiritual abuse, addictions, depression. We pretty much do the gamut. How do they find us? They find us on the internet. Since my book has come out, I've had a plethora of people reaching out to me that have gotten the book. I've been on numerous podcasts since the fall, and I've had several people reach out that way. Also word of mouth. So, I mean, people would call us from other states, and just like, yeah, someone told me about your organization. And so we step in and we serve. And what does that look like? Most of our clients we work with on the phone. I do meet with people. We have flown to be with people. People have come to be with us. I work with people in our house. But if it is complex, complicated grief and trauma, it is usually on the phone, not on Zoom. And someone go, why? Because when someone is overwhelmed, they've got a lot of emotions. They can have anger, they can have sadness, they can have loneliness. There's just so many things. For me to look them in the eye like we are here, they have a propensity to kind of go inward and to shut down. But because I'm not looking at them and we're just having a conversation, and I don't ever see a lot of my people, guess what? Healing happens so much more organically. And it's absolutely incredible and beautiful. And these are people that are set free to then re-engage in life again. And to hear those stories and to be a part of that journey. For me, it's holy ground every day. I work with people every day. Try to take Fridays off. I was doing every day. I'm really trying to get back to taking Fridays off because every session is 2 hours long with each individual person.
How's your end game? Like, are there some people that no matter how hard you tried, you're just not getting anywhere with? Or in a matter of how many sessions do you start to see some kind of understanding on their end to where they're actually listening to you and trying to take it to heart? Or some people you just can't reach?
Our modalities are very unique. So you're not really talking to me. I take you in a space where I have you imagine a place where you can go. And if it's for a believer, where Jesus would want to meet you. If you're a non-believer, you find that place that would bring beauty to you. So maybe the beach, maybe, going to the mountains. And then we work through all that pain from that place. And that pain is able to come into that place and express the anger, express bitterness, express unforgiveness, talk through that, and look at what life would look like if I let go of that. Wow, what would I receive in place of that? So what I can honestly tell you is everyone who does come, they actually walk through to healing. We've not had anyone who's not had healing because they're coming for healing. They're not coming to be persuaded. Most of my clients have really suffered in some very dark places and have had complex trauma. And they've been to people that have done the talking. Talking's not going to resolve and bring healing to the pain. Intentionality, stepping in and allowing yourself to process that and give permission to, is what brings the healing.
Do you talk to a lot of people who have drug-related deaths, overdosing, and or people themselves who and feel responsible about it? Or like it's my fault? Or what's the percentage? And there's so many different variables, but that's a heavy one too.
People that come to us that their children have died by suicide feel very, some of them feel responsible. Others know they've did everything they could. I think it depends on what we see it depends on the relationship that the parent and the child had. If it was contentious, there's a lot more guilt. And if there wasn't contention, there's a place where they can resolve easier. So I've had people that I've worked with who have tried to die by suicide. I had one client, she had attempted 4 times. She had a spirit of suicide on her, so we went in and worked with the spirit of suicide to deliver her from that. And she was delivered from that. She's doing great. That was 4 years ago. So, I mean, these are real things that, I mean, and again, everyone comes from a different place as to their life experiences, as to why they are where they are. The people that have had sexual ritual abuse, I can't even tell you how many have come through our organization that have been in sexual ritual abuse. And they've had mind control. So I had one client, she was 35. She had 2 memories, and it had taken her years to get 2 memories because of the mind control. I think that many people in our world, Peter, are very lacking knowledge about the depths of the trauma and pain and grief that people carry with them.
Look, let's go. I want to touch on the mental health aspect because
Yes.
I know that's part of you too. I never understood it, but I can easily say personally, I know so many widows who had husbands who suffered with depression and things like that, that you go, how in the heck can you get so depressed? And I mean, functioning, intelligent guys,
Yes.
you wouldn't see it coming, and one day drove off and just, off themselves, leaving behind everything for no understandable reason except the word depression. And I'm sure they all say if they could have taken it back, they would have, but it's too late. I mean, battling with depression, you deal with a lot of that too?
Yes, we do. I spoke earlier, depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. Those 3 usually go hand in hand. If you have anxiety, anxiety can build up to depression. Depression builds up to suicidal ideation. If you don't get a handle on the onset with anxiety, you go to the next layer, which is now depression. If you don't get a handle on the depression, then we can go over to suicidal ideation. It's because the mind keeps spinning out of control. And the body is not being able to heal in the manner that it needs, and it doesn't have the resources and the tools. And we give those resources and tools, but again, breathing techniques are extremely important for people with anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. We have to start there with breathing because you've got to, yes, breathing is extremely important to regulate the body, to bring you into a very calm place. And that allows for you to release the toxins that are building up and the anxiety that is starting to build, and it recenters you. So we help them with breathing techniques. And then after breathing techniques, we will tell them some other things that they can use, but then we start going into that place where we can bring anxiety in that can talk about what makes it anxious. Where did your anxiety start from? And they're speaking in that place where they can become healed.
I have a friend, he was on this show a couple of years ago because I have known him since I was 17, and we kind of lost track of each other for 30, 40 years. And then while I was in California, he lived like 40 miles away from me. And I mean, we play, I was in one of my first bands with him when I was 16 years old in Pensacola, and sweetheart of a guy. And he had just recently, a couple of years ago, told me how he suffers from depression. And he didn't come on the show. He came on the show via phone. He didn't want to come on camera, but he talked a lot about it. And he really had me worried because I didn't see it in him when when I saw him again all these years, because I had spent some time with him. And he told me about it. And I said, listen, if you're ever in that headspace, I said, I don't care if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, call me. And he's like, yeah. But he says, Peter, you don't understand. When I'm in that headspace, that phone is 1,000 pounds.
That's right. And I mean, that's the reality of it. And people can't understand that. They're like, but I was there. You may have. And I offer to be there. You may have. But in that moment, they don't see any way out. So I work with teens as well. And I think the hardest part for me is when I'm working with a child to help the parent understand what it means when a child has suicidal tendencies. Because there's just this lack of understanding that comes with this struggle. And there are parents that just, I think part of it is denial. The other aspect of it is they don't know how to deal with it. And I'm trying to tell them, because when I have a child telling me they want to kill themselves and I'm telling the parent's not doing something active to help them, it is my job to do something active to help them. However, I do not at all want a child to go to any mental health facility. I know what happens there. I hate them. They're deplorable here in Florida.
Yeah.
Any young person that's gone in there has had a nightmarish situation. That is not the best thing. Intervention with a doctor who knows what they're doing, because there are times that there needs to be medication along with the healing modalities that we do. And we still are in a culture where mental health has this very negative stigma. So I need everyone to hear me. When people talk about mental health, 97% of the people right now that are going to a counselor or coach, it is due to unresolved grief and trauma, and those individuals are on the mental health spectrum diagnosis. It's related to trauma and grief. So you need to understand the stigma that you're having is against trauma and grief. And 1 billion children a year will experience an act of trauma. Those children grow up and they need tools and resources in healing. So if we don't get the intervention, do we see what we are perpetuating?
Let me ask you, because I also know that there's young teens who cry wolf, always threatening to kill themselves or something, and you don't know whether they're just acting out for attention or if they really mean it. So you constantly cave to their wants and needs as a parent because they start scaring the hell out of you, because nobody wants you know what I mean? Where do you draw the line? How do you?
Well, first of all, you don't cave to a child because they're crying wolf. There's something wrong inherently with the relationship that's in place if you're going to cater to a need that child has because they're saying they'll kill themselves. That needs some family therapy first and foremost. It needs intervention in that aspect. Yeah. And then there needs to be a talk with the parent separately and with the child, and that we don't manipulate. However, I mean, when I'm with individuals, I actually know whether my clients are lying or they're telling the truth.
Well, that's good, because I also have a problem with, I've known therapists that are crazier than their clients.
Absolutely. Most people go into therapeutics help because they haven't been healed themselves.
And you're paying $150 an hour for these people, and it's like, God, if you only knew, and are they helping you or not? And again, it's like trying to get to the root problem. It's just, to me, it's almost like medical. It's these doctors are just covering things up. They're not getting to the root cause of trying to fix you. They're just keeping you on a string.
Right.
But,
and that's why I like what we do, because we're going to the root. I shouldn't be seeing you for a year unless you've got really complicated, complex trauma and I have had a person that had years of sexual ritual abuse, but there was healing every time. But most people, I would say the longest someone typically stays with me is 3 months, and they're healed. I mean, that's the longest, because we're going in to heal all those wounded parts. that have kept you fractured and living in the state that has separated and isolated or made you feel shame and guilt or unworthy. Because those things need healing. And that's why I love what we do. First of all, talking, and I'm not a counselor, I'm actually a coach, because a counselor will talk to you, but I started with counseling, but I've always been a counseling coach. First off, if you're coming with me a problem, my question is going to be, where do you want to be? You're coming to me, you have this problem. What do you want to resolve here? What are you willing to do in this? Because see, you've got to have skin in the game. If you want to get healed, then what are you willing to do to get there? I'll be glad to get you there, but are you willing to do it? I've actually cut some people loose because they weren't ready. I said, sweetie, you're not ready to do the things like I've given you 2 or 3 weeks, and you're not doing any of those. I can take your money, but I don't want to take your money because there's an integrity here of workmanship and ethics. And I want you to heal. And if you're not ready to heal, come back when you are ready to heal.
I'm in total agreement with you. I mean, about you shouldn't be going forever, but God knows I've got people in my life that I've known through the years that are years into this stuff, and it just never ends. I mean,
but that's because they're recycling the same story. They aren't getting healed. How many times can you keep saying the stuff that happened? Get past it. How do you jump over the hurdle? Well, first of all, you need to know that you can jump over the hurdle, and there's something far greater over the hurdle. So let's look at what's over the hurdle. Let's put it in sight. Let's make it attainable and attractive. And so when someone tells me, I had someone who came to me that has had years and years of suffering, and she said, I've been in this counseling, and I think she said for like 10 years. And I went, oh my word. And she said, and I have not gotten any better. And I said, well, baby, let's get you in this and see how you do. After the first session, she goes, oh my word. She goes, I cannot believe in one session what was dealt with. And I've been doing this for 10 years and have gotten nowhere. That was just one. So again, I have people that are coming to me that have done traditional. They're not seeing the results. And we want results. I want you to be able to live fully in your created design. Let's get you tapped back into your gifts and your talents and your treasures. Let's get you back relationally to your friends, your family, and your community. And I will tell you why we have so much anxiety and depression, because our culture is so separated and there's no community. And if everybody would get off their phones and their social media, because that has killed relationship. And I cannot tell you, it is universal now across the board from young to old, where people tell me they feel so lonely. It's not just the young people anymore. It's everyone.
Well, you know that the phones are here to stay, unfortunately. I mean, it's a culture that, kids are growing up into now. But it just fascinates me how many, and I got to go to younger people, because everybody's pretty much younger than me now. But that I just they're so troubled. They're like, you don't understand. And I'm going, maybe I was lucky. I mean, I grew up in a normal household. I mean, it wasn't perfect by no means. I don't know if any are. But I could never imagine being so depressed to where I'd want to take myself out. I mean, even when I got my ass beat for doing stuff. But it seems nowadays everybody's got problems.
Well, let's address that. So many of our children are coming up in single parent homes. I was a school teacher, middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Good majority of my kids were in single parent homes, and I am not shooting people in the foot for being a single parent.
Right.
What I'm saying is that's not how our kids were meant to come in and grow up. I had a 2-parent home.
Yeah.
It was not perfect in my 2-parent home, but I had a 2-parent. Okay, let me make that clear. Yeah. Not perfect, but I had a 2-parent home.
Yeah.
And there's something about the unifying aspect of a mom and a dad. And we have so much identity struggle right now in our culture. People don't know who they are. And they're trying to find who they are because somewhere they lost who they are. So there's no affirmation. Did you struggle with your identity growing up? I did. I knew who I was.
No. Good or bad.
Did you have a struggle of you might be female, you might be transgender? I didn't have that struggle. I knew I was a female. I liked being a female. I enjoyed being a female. I wasn't having like anxiety over the fact that maybe I'm not a female. I mean, I deal with all of this. I have clients who come in with this stuff. This is real.
Yeah.
The transgenderism is real, and it has caused an influx. And here's what's happening in the schools right now, because I'm working with these. If you're not trying the other side, something's wrong with you.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's what's happening. And you're getting pressure because you're not engaging culturally in this. So they're getting pressure. And then there's depression and anxiety because they're not allowed to enjoy who they are.
Yeah, you got to have the confidence from within, because I got to tell you that, you know, again, this show would not exist had it not been for my divorce that I went through. In my opinion, as much hell as more hell than I anticipated, just to have access to my daughter. And I gave up everything to be available, including money, to make sure she had a father for the time I was allowed to have her, which was 50-50, but it wasn't, I wish it was 100%. But the thing, I knew how important balance is. Now, some people, a lot of kids, if a parent dies at a young age, I mean, my own mother lost her father when she was 11 years old. There's things that can't be helped.
Right.
And they'll survive. I mean, I get it, but I did not by default of like, well, you know, I can just write a check and let her be taken care of. I couldn't live with that in my life. But I mean, I identified in my mother's eyes as a pain in the ass, you know, so that was as far as it went, you know. And I was a musician since I was a baby. I knew what I wanted to do. And I gave them a good bit of help, but they never turned their backs on me, even when I had to get my ass beat for something that I was rightfully wrong about. And again, definitely not a perfect unity or whatever, but there was that bond of balance. And these things that are nowadays, it's like, I don't understand what the hell is wrong with you with all this nonsense.
Well, now we have all this estrangement. I work with that too. So we have all these kids who've turned away from their parents.
Yeah.
So, and I talk to the kids who are estranging, and I talk to the parents who've been estranged.
Yeah.
And so you just said something, and I'm saying, so did you blame your parents because they whooped your ass? No, you didn't blame your parents and go, you should have never. Therefore, I'm now alienating you and I'm estranging myself from you because you know what? That was abuse. No, you didn't do that. That's what's happening now. They're looking back, and really, this is what I'm hearing. My parents made me go to church every Sunday. And I said, so this is why you're not talking to your parents? Yeah, that was abuse. I said, could you tell, did they beat you? No. Did they yell at you? No. But they made me go. Okay, honey, you realize you were a child. Your parents were trying to teach you, train you. You were entrusted to them. So you're an adult now. You don't have to go to church, right? Yeah, but they did. And I said, but I'm not sure how that hurt you. Did you get violated? I mean, I've asked all these questions.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
No. So what's happened is our culture has redefined trauma. And this is back to our counselors and psychiatrists, because now everything is trauma. Yeah. The fact that you were taken to church that had to be very traumatic. They've put that language in there.
Yeah, I blame them for a lot of that crap.
And they're blaming parents when kids come in instead of saying, well, you know what? You're an adult. Let's talk about how you as an adult are going to navigate your life, because you know what? You're going to maybe be a parent one day. You're not going to get it all right either. So let's look at the things that you can do, what you wouldn't do. And look at your parents and okay, they did the best they could. Now, I know there are parents who are highly abusive, and I am not getting a hall pass to any of those parents. So if any parent on here has abused their child, I am not. I have dealt with way too many children who have been sexually abused by a father, a brother, a mother. I've dealt with way too many children who have been verbally abused and spiritually. And when I say spiritually abused, I mean there was a scripture given to them for everything they did to make them feel less than. And I'm a strong believer in Jesus Christ, but that is a misuse of his word and of his character.
Right.
So what I am saying, that we have to look at what is real and what is true. And I think right now, the last I looked, I think it's about a 55, 65%. It's heading up, that there's at least one child that's estranging a parent. It's gone up to 65%. That's a high percentage.
I'm speechless with some of the, again, you know, the kids, the wussification of, you know, everything upsets them. And how do the kids survive if they, because I had a woman that she wrote a book now on estrangement and stuff like, and things like that. And she's doing very well on that topic, which really I didn't understand a few years ago when this was all coming out. But you got the key word, everything in the past few years was triggered. It triggers you. And I'm going, what the hell's going on here? It's like, and you got these kids that when they estrange themselves, how do they survive if they don't have their parents taking care of them, or do the parents still take care of them and just deal with it?
Some enable. I'm not an enabler, and I don't believe in enabling. And some parents will enable because they're so fearful that if they don't, they're never going to have them again, which that's wrong too, because now they're back to they've been manipulated, and they're now, you know, being on the purse strings, which is wrong. And I want to say something to you, and I hope you can understand this. Harder than my own loss is the loss of parents who have estranged children because they're living and there's no closure.
Yeah. I see. Look, I don't see emotionally, again, even when I was mad at my parents, you know, because again, if you get your butt kicked for, you know, back in the day, that's how they took care of things. And I got to say, you know, it worked. It did work. I turned out okay. I mean, you know, I don't believe in, like, they didn't beat me to death, but there was times when the belt came out a few times in my life. You know, my father was old school. He came from
We had the belt in our house. Yes,
okay.
There was a belt in our house.
Okay, so but I literally met a young guy. This is back in probably 2019 or 20, and this is the first time I've ever heard it. He looked at me and he said, "Well, I didn't choose to be born." One of those things. And I looked at him, and I'm, you know, because I'm a pretty cheering kind of, like, I'll make a joke out of anything. I'm going, that is messed up. I'll go, how do you even have the mentality to turn it and start blaming your parents if you're not doing so well because you didn't choose to be born? It's like,
well, I hear this all the time. A lot of the youth that I have, they'll say, well, I didn't choose to be born. My parents are responsible for me because they chose to have me. So it's their responsibility.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm like, well, up to a certain point, no, they chose to have me, so I'm their responsibility. I said, no, honey, it doesn't work that way. At some point, you're on your own, and you got to figure this out because you can't keep blaming them. But I can honestly say I have seen so many individuals grieving the absence and the loss of their child who is still living here and doing life and having children, getting married. I mean, they're having full life, and they're not part of any of it.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
No.
It's horrible that, you don't get to see your grandkids or something like that. I know, you know, again, do enough of these shows, you run into enough people. I want because we can do a 3-hour show. I knew it was going to be like this because this is pretty deep. Can we talk about your book?
Yes.
Why don't you tell me about when and how you got inspired enough to write something like this? I mean, I got to tell you, again, I promise you I read the whole thing. I haven't finished, but it's deep. I mean, it's deep, and you have some deep, you want to call them scriptures or poems or, you know, words of wisdom, however you want to call it. But this is some deep stuff, and not everybody's cup of tea for like an action-packed thriller or anything like this. But very meaningful if you're living in this type of. Tell everybody about it. Never mind me.
When Sterling passed, I really kind of abided in the presence of the Lord. It's the only place I could be. And he ministered to me. He wept with me. He helped me. I couldn't sleep for several weeks at night because my son passed at night. So my mind would start racing. And I just remember one night I was so tired and just said, Lord, I really need rest. And the Father just said, lay back and I'll hold you. And I laid on his chest, and Jesus and Holy Spirit just kind of cocooned me. And I just was in that place, and I don't remember really ever falling asleep, but when I got up the next morning, I was so rested. And in that book, there is something that the Lord spoke over me, which was a prayer that started with my mind and went through all my body to release that pain, to release the trauma, and to be able to receive new life. And he would pray it over me in the morning, and he would pray it over me at night. And one day he said, I want you to write it down. And I did. And all of these poems and stories that are in there, Peter, came from the experience of my own grief. And I wrote them at different moments. And in the moment I was writing it, I would just ask the Lord to minister to me and show up for me, because it was the outcry of my soul. I was in pain. I was stripped back. And the pictures that are in there are pictures that they are nature that God just had just in that moment for that outcry of my heart that day. And it just gave life in a dead place. And I did not intend to ever put this into a book. It was my personal writings. And I had another book I was going to do. And then the Lord said, this needs to be the book, because it's very raw and it's very transparent, and people need to understand the layers of loss. So in the book, it's about the loss of life, of a precious life that is of value to us. It's about the loss of who I was, the loss of my family, the loss of friends, the loss of his friends, the loss of the dreams that we would never see fulfilled. But in each of the losses, there's also the hope, the blooms of hope that are coming for something else. And then I talk about the mental health struggles my son had, what we went through with that. I shared about the second loss of the murder, the forgiveness to the murderer, and praying for him, his family, and that there is really no satisfaction. He just was sentenced in December of 2025. So when the book came out, he had not been sentenced. He had not even gone to court. He'd been sitting in jail for 5 years. And when we found out what his sentence was, my husband and I wept. We wept for him. We wept for us. We wept for his family. We wept for her family. We wept for our son and her and her children. Because there's nothing satisfying that here a man who's killed people now will die in prison, never to be a father to his own children, never to have the fulfillment of a life. That's grievous to me. And yes, I miss my own son. I do. but it also grieves me that someone else and their whole family lost their lives too.
Yeah.
So the book really is about, it walks through all of that. And in the very end, it talks about the treasures that come from the darkness. And we should all have treasures that come from the dark. And if we don't, we need to go back and get them, because they're going to go in our next trial with us. And then we share about the Sterling Rose Sanctuary and what we're doing. We're actually fundraising now to get a place here in Florida for people to be able to come to for specific modalities within the house. And it's to encourage people in their journey that they can be healed. They can breathe again. They can move again freely, and they can live again. And I so desire that for every single person.
That's what I wanted to ask you next. I mean, you're looking to create a spot for people to come, almost like a, do you want to call it like a retreat type thing, or just treatment, or
it would be a healing sanctuary where it would be more of an executive home, and all the rooms in that house serve a healing purpose. And then we would want to have a couple of cottages on the property where we could serve either a family, individual, or couple. But they're done individually. They're not going to be served together, because, see, you deserve your own space for healing before you're put with other people with trauma. I hate when people throw someone who has trauma into a group setting. First of all, let the person who's had trauma deal with their own trauma. I don't need to hear 15 other people's trauma when I'm struggling with my own pain and trauma. I need to heal. Now, after I heal, I can go do a group setting. But that is not beneficial, because this is what I've heard when people go in a group setting and they come out. I just felt so guilty because, well, that person had this happen, and, well, it just didn't seem like I should be struggling, or I felt like maybe I would. And so now they're not able to grieve the losses they're feeling because they're comparing it to someone else's. It's very unhealthy and can be very dangerous for the person.
Really? So them sharing, like getting it off your chest, with another group and going, well, almost kind of like the you're not alone theory, that's not really working that well. I mean, they're saying, well, if it could happen to you, it could happen to me. I mean,
it could later, Peter. It can later, but in the initial, so I can kind of give an example. We looked for a place for our whole family to go, because I said, we need to go somewhere. We need to go somewhere, and all of us go in. I knew what we needed because I was trained in a lot of this. There was no place for a family to go and stay intact. My husband and I could go, and then we leave our children? Absolutely not. We needed to be bridged together. We needed to be woven in together, not further separated. Because when there is already this trauma that has happened, this is why families fracture and fall apart. Because they start dwindling away from one another. And we needed something to pull us together, to unify us. And so I knew the things we needed, but we could not find the place. And so we started doing those things ourselves. And so there's a scale, and we do this with our clients, that let's say that you come in and it's your whole family. We'll ask each of them, let's say they're having a conflict because one wants a picture up of their child and the other doesn't. This actually happened in our own family. And we said, from a scale of 1 to 5, how important, 1 being the least and the most important, 5 being the least, how important is it for you to have a picture present? And everyone had to write down that number. And so then what you do is you look at that and you say, for these people, it's really important because it evokes healing in them. But for you 3, it's triggering to you. So can we talk about a place in your house that we can put that picture where you can get your healing, but the rest of you are not triggered? That's what we did. This happens over and over because this is how families fracture. I want to set a place at the table for our loved one who passed. The rest of the family doesn't want me to do. Now, I'm just using this as an example. We didn't do this, but the rest of the family doesn't want that. Instead of talking, I now feel like you're not supporting my grief, and I become angry and resentful because you don't understand me. So we work through all of those layers because there's so many. And what we call that is, let's talk about the thorns that can actually be prickly so that we can enjoy each petal in the rose and get back to smelling the fragrance of that rose. Because grief is messy.
It's a tough journey again, and the people that, I mean, I just feel like letting somebody talk about it keeps them from exploding. I mean, that's just my opinion. That's why I do this show. I mean, a lot of times I'll bring these people on and I go, listen, I'm not doing it to exploit you. I'm doing it for you to open up and let it off, because you need to be heard. People need to be, but yet I have these people in my life, and I will probably forever, for everyone that, there's another one coming in the door. And I feel that silence and that loneliness, they're wallowing in this dark pit and doing more self-destruction to their soul, and they don't even know it because they don't have it in their mind. That's the only thing to be doing.
Well, this is one of the aspects we work with. The worst thing a person grieving can say, and I have a lot who come in and will say, I will never get over. I will always. And I said, sweetie, I need you to stop right there. Do you believe that we were created to never get over? That we can never, ever heal? I know I won't. I want you to stop, and I want you to think through that. So my role is to challenge them, for them to think through that aspect. And we typically come around that I do see I am capable of healing. I just felt like it could never be for me. Because there are lies that we believe, and that's where we have to stop the lie. And that's what we talk about. What lies are you hearing and believing, and what truths should we replace it with? And I think that's extremely important.
Well, see, there you go. It's like, and this is another phrase over these past COVID years and all that. It's, well, this is my truth. It's like, what does that mean? Is it the truth, or is it just what you choose to believe, whether it's right or wrong?
Well, it's what people choose. And that's why I say the verbiage, this is a lie, this is truth. And we have to acknowledge there is a truth and there is a lie. There is. And so there is a liar. And if I believe what the liar says, then I don't get to live in my created design, and I don't get to live from the tree of life with the exuberance and the victoriousness that I'm allowed to have, and the courageousness and the bravery that I have. Instead, I become a victim. So I'm either a victor or a victim. In grief, you either become the victor or victim.
Right.
Yeah. And again, I keep telling, it's a choice. We have to make a choice. And some people don't want to choose that, and you can't make them. But I have to say, the people that have come into the sanctuary, they choose life. They're choosing life. They realize there is life, and there's only one you. I mean, for anyone listening, there's only one you. Nobody else can be you, and you're needed. Your full presence is needed, not the dead you, because that's not beneficial. I mean, there's so much of you left. Don't let it be sequestered and just be flatlined the rest of your life. Allow yourself to be resurrected and to breathe and to live in this life again. Your loved ones would want that. No loved one would say to you, just die when I die and just stay there. I don't want you to experience any great thing in life.
Right.
They wouldn't say it.
Right. I mean, you'd think that that'd be the obvious phrase that you'd say, you're husband or your would not want you wallowing, and self-destructing like this. But yet, sometimes easier said than done. And some people choose to stay the victim. They just want
Yes,
to
they
be
do.
there.
Yes. Well, I asked the question, do you think your loved one would want you to be in this position? I don't tell them what their loved one would want, but I will say to them, what do you think they would want for you?
Pretty
If
obvious.
they were here. And then, it's really neat to hear their answers. And I have a question for you. So when you're talking, do you hear the victim mentality? And they'll, yes. Is that how you were created to live? And is that what you want to continue to live in? See, I'm asking them questions and then they get to choose because it's their choice. But when they start hearing themselves talk out loud, they start thinking through, well, maybe I do want to live. I just didn't realize I could live again. Because a lot of it is they feel they're forsaking their loved one if they go on with life. And this is where I help them understand, honey, you incorporate your loved one with them and you bring them with you. Bring them with you. That's great. They come with you. Right now, you're doing nothing. You're just like stagnant.
It's again, we're talking about things that most people don't want to talk about.
No, they don't.
No, and you don't want to imagine anything, and God forbid it happens to you. They still don't want to talk about it because, it's not your everyday experience. And there's lots of things in life that's not everyday experiences, and that's what it's called, experience. And I think if I was to ever get, God forbid, ever get divorced again, I would be a lot better at it than I was this last time, because the first time just nearly drove me, out of my mind, and I don't recommend it. But sometimes I always say it takes two people to get married, only one to get divorced, and all of a sudden things just go haywire, and you don't expect all the hell you're going to go through, and you go through it. And people were telling me, Peter, it's going to get better. Peter, it's going to get better. But until you get to that point, some sooner than later, or some never. I could have easily drank myself under the table had I allowed myself to, but I had a young child. That was my energy, my reason to not. And, this show, we would not be talking here if this started. I left my career and couldn't find myself for several years until I came up with this, because I had talked to so many people about divorce and surviving it because of your children, that I started a show on it. And now I talk about, life in general, but I do go back to those topics. I brought up the book, and I wanted to talk more about the book. We're running out of time because it's, again, we're going to go on to the 2-hour mark before you know it. Let me, if you don't mind, let me tell people how they can find you. Oh, and I misspelled. I'm telling you, I wasn't expecting to, I misspelled sanctuary. I forgot an R, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to, again, I was going to put this banner, make it after you and I did our little together test, and I would have had 20 minutes to breathe and no problem, and that was what never happened. Hang on, let me fix this if you don't mind. Take it off here, and so your book, how people can find your book, and while I'm fixing your website. Tell everybody, is it available on Amazon and things like that?
It's available on Amazon. It's also available on our website. The book is, and it'll take you over to Amazon. And if you need our resources also, you can fill out the heart healing form and send it over. And someone's really great about getting back with you within 24 hours and setting up an appointment and seeing what your needs are and how we can help you to have the healing you need.
Yeah, I had so many things in my head that was going until we ran into this little technical incident, and it just threw me for a loop. But your website now, again, you're trying to you don't have a location at this time. You do everything via phones and now you're a nonprofit. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. So
yeah, we would love for someone to donate a property to us. That would be ideal. It would be wonderful. There are a lot of people that could do that because they need a tax write-off. So,
You never know.
and there are people that really, we're always going to have grief, unfortunately. When you were talking about your own experience, I believe that when we allow ourselves to enter in the spaces of the pain that we go through in life, it does prepare us for the next time, and we are better equipped. We actually do go and talk to people and places to help them be equipped to face loss, to know what it is to grieve, and to know that grief should never, ever have the last word, because it wasn't meant to. It was not meant to define you. It was meant to redefine you, to give you a greater capacity. If you don't ever grieve, then you've never loved and you've never experienced life here.
True. You know, again, can I say that the experience I went through definitely changed me as a person, not necessarily in a bad way, but yes, it did. I believe that sometimes you have to go through the things you have to go through to get to where you're going,
Yes.
whether you like it or not. And
Well, I think it builds capacity for us to have a greater compassion for others, like you said earlier, that you're so sensitive. I believe that we're missing some of that in our humanity today,
yeah,
because of the things that we've been that have caused us to detach. And if we could get back to a place where we engage, that we are intentional, and that we really build community, that makes a difference.
times have definitely changed. The days of Sunday get-togethers with the family, everybody's so busy. I mean, I know a lot of people long for that, but the matriarchs have passed away, you know, with the ones, the gatherers, you know, the old people that, you know, and I try to instill that into my daughter about never, you know, always reminding her and taking her around the old people that helped her as raised, you know, that chipped in and shaping her as a child. I mean, taking their, you know, just friends of mine who treat my daughter like their own. And,
Yes.
you know, she's who she is because of that. Things that I couldn't give. Not that I wouldn't, but it takes that love from different angles and just give you a stable upbringing. And I'm very, very grateful. I want to ask you something a little bit controversial before we go, because you've said a few things that made me think. Do you believe in psychics?
I don't. I do believe that there are people that are prophetic. A prophetic person is different than a psychic, in the sense that a prophetic individual actually speaks from the Word of God about future events, that there's confirmation to that. If we look at Scripture, Saul was forewarned about seeking out psychics, and actually she rebuked Saul for seeking her out because she knew that it was wrong. And so I take that example from Scripture. I've actually had people who have gone to psychics, and some not so good things have happened. Do you mind if I share a story?
I'm all ears.
Mother had lost a child, called me. Child had died by suicide in the house. As the mother was on the house, I am feeling this very deep, dark oppression. And I knew she had to be in the daughter's room because I could feel the entire atmosphere become very dark. And as she's talking to me, she said that she felt she had done something wrong. And she asked me the same question you did. Do you believe in psychics? And I said, from a biblical standpoint, no, I don't. Explained to her why I didn't. And she said, well, I went to one. And since she had gone to one, the blood in the floor that they cleaned up kept coming back up in the floor from the suicide of her daughter after she went to see the psychic. And every time she was in the room, there would be a manifestation. And that hadn't happened before she went. And I said, well, based on Scripture, you've opened up a demonic portal. Would you mind if you turned your phone on speaker I said, because I think you're in her room right now, are you not? She said, I am. I said, I felt like you were. Would you mind if I pray over her room and cleanse it with the blood of Jesus and take authority? And she said, no. And I did. And those things stopped after that. So I only can go from my own experiences based on what I've encountered in my life and the things that I have seen. And for a psychic to be actually legitimate, every single word they say has to be true, just like a prophet.
Oh no, I hear you, because again, I looked at psychics because I do watch a lot of people. Again, I do a show about life and they're around. So I take psychics, and the only reason I'm asking you this is because you were saying that, God told you or Jesus has spoken to you. I'm going, well, how come you can hear this? And some of these people, I feel that if you can, so can other people.
Well, if it's from the word, if it's from him, I do have a personal relationship. Anyone who has a personal relationship with the Father, Jesus, and Holy Spirit, he does speak to them, because he said, my sheep hear my voice. So he does talk, just like you and I are talking. And so if I am repeating, I can say, well, Peter said, and you did say, because you said it. It's the same thing in my relationship. And it's interesting because back several years ago, we were talking to a pastor, my husband and I, and the Lord has spoken to me ever since I was a little girl about things. But when the Lord speaks, it has to be consistent with this character and with his word. If it's not consistent with this character and his word, it's not the Lord speaking. Anything the Lord has ever told me has actually come true. It's actually, and my husband, of course, now we've been together. We've been married 36. We dated 3 years, so he's known me for 39 years. So I would tell him things and he would see it happen. And so he was telling a pastor, the Lord speaks to Marcia, and when the Lord speaks to Marcia, Marcia listens, and it comes true. Now, if it weren't to come true, guess what? Then that wouldn't have been the Lord speaking to me. There would have been some miscommunication there. There would have been something wrong. Like I was not in a place to really that I should have been, because maybe I had wrong thinking. So we have to run it by the grid of the word. Everything has to be run through him.
I just wanted to ask because, again, I believe in every aspect of every type of career or job or person. There's good, there's bad. There's some that are better than others, like doctors, even though they're doctors.
Yeah.
And I look at it like musicians as well. You're really good at doing jazz. That's your thing. You're a rock player, drummer, but you're not as good of a musician. And there's some that aren't and claim they are, and they just aren't. But there's some that are virtuosos. And I kind of attribute that you have to go through the weeds to find those people who, if they say something, sometimes I got to tell you, I've run into some people that they talk about something that if it's undeniable that nobody else could possibly have known this stuff, like they can't just Google you or something. How do you explain it? But I just take things with a grain of salt. I'm very open-minded, although an old Italian lady, and she's, when we talked about things in general, I talked about, religion and God and this and that. She says, well, that's good. She says, because you need some form of accountability, and I mean, you need to have some kind of root grounding of some type of, stability. And I just left things at that. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think that there could be some evil, but common sense will tell you where you're going with anybody. I mean, if they're bad people or good people. But when you were talking about that God speaks to you, I'm going, God, I mean, maybe if he speaks to me, maybe I'm just not on the right frequency. Like, you're wanting to, but it's just not coming through as clearly as others.
Well, I think part of that, I mean, when you're asking that, I spend a lot of time by myself with the Lord. First of all, to have a relationship, we have to spend time with each other, right? And if you and I are sitting here talking, I'm getting to know more about you, like even earlier, the way you handled the situation because you were working through, to try and get us on the show. I saw an aspect of your character. So I could speak like he really was very diligent and persevering. That's what you exhibited. They would be true statements, right? Because that's what you exhibited. You were doing those things so we could get on the show and we could do this. It's the same with the Lord. I spend time, so I know his character. I know who he is. It's taken, me spending that time and for me to listen and to hear. And he speaks, and I want to hear. But I will tell you, not everything he says, just like when he said that my son was going to pass in a car accident, that's not pleasant. And I have to tell you, I told him, I said, Lord, please take me, don't take him. And he said, it will be as I've said, but will you still love me? And I'm weeping on the floor in that Coliseum. And I said, how could I not? Because he's been a gift that you gave me. I was never owed him. I didn't deserve him. You've given him on loan to me. So, of course, I will still love you. I just wish that it didn't have to be this way.
Do you know how many people have denounced God when bad things have happened and going, no loving God would ever do this to me or to my child or to my family? I mean, have you had to deal with that kind of thing?
Sure, and no loving God did that to my child. There was free will. He didn't do that, but he did prepare me. And he, you know what my loving God did do? He sent his own son to die on the cross for me. His own son. So what God would send their own son to take absolution of my sins, to bring me into redemption, to have an eternal life? I mean, how can I sit and get angry because he gave me these gifts and circumstances happened and they passed? He allowed his own son to die a very horrific death. And so all I can say is thank you for the gifts of my son. This hurts in ways I can not even express verbally. And he said yes, and I know, I understand it.
All right, we're going to leave it at that because again, we got to go. I want to thank you for giving me the time and sharing with my audience, which down the road will grow beyond what I even think grows. I don't know what it is about this show, but 6 months from now, things start changing, and you'll be popping up in the short clips, and so the message will be spent. I want to tell everybody one more time: you can get her book. You can go to her website, thesterlingrosesanctuary.us, and check out the book. Check out more information on Marcia.
Yes.
I've been wanting to do that all for 3 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but again, to learn more about everything, just go to their website. You are a nonprofit, and you are looking to establish a residency of a type to be able to help more people, and get more information from Marcia there. And we'll just go from there. Maybe down the road we can have you on and see how life is progressing. And because again, I think this is a topic that you never can reach everybody, and it's just a matter of going at it and staying at it. So, with that, can you? Before I let you go, is there just one last? Even though you just kind of gave me about as much wisdom as you could want, but is there any last thing you want to leave with everybody?
I just want to encourage everybody to live the life they were given to live, and to do it out loud and purposeful, to not let the circumstances of life hijack them, and to keep them in a place of darkness, and to know that there are other people that have gone through hardships that can walk alongside of them. We would love to walk alongside of anybody that is hurting and help them get to a place where they can walk in joy again.
Fair enough. All right. Everybody, last look at Miss Marcia Earhart with the Sterling Rose Sanctuary. Look her up, get her book. You need more information on how to deal with these things, go and pay her a visit at her website, and possibly even contact them and see from there. But I want to thank you again. If you have a couple of minutes, if you could just hang out and let me finish up. If you have to go, I'll talk to you at a later date. But I just figured let me finish up here and then catch you now, and then I'll leave you alone. We've been through a lot tonight.
We have stormed the gates.
We have
victoriously. Yes.
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
Well, we'll see when I actually watch the show, you know. But I think we're doing okay. So again, we got through it. Again, thank you for your time and
Thank you so much. I appreciate
bye-bye.
it.
Everybody wave bye to Miss Marcia Earhart right there. There you go. Okay. I'm going to tell you, it's been quite a night, folks. I encounter, and I'm used to it. Again, I grew up as a musician, from live musician to studio musician to live musician, and you learn to roll with the changes. Last look, the Sterling Rose Sanctuary.us right there. Go look her up. But I usually can encounter and figure out what's going on. And right now, tonight, I got hit with a barrage of things that just kind of took me, because I've been doing this long enough that you kind of figure out what you have to work with over here. But we made it. So with that being said, I'm going to leave everybody alone. I want to thank everybody for watching Life of Peter G, The Peter G Show, every Wednesday like clockwork, even if I'm a couple of minutes late, which is very rare. 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. on the East Coast, God willing. Say that every week, and I mean it, because there's a reason for it. I didn't have to be here, and neither did you. But if you are here, it means you're here for a reason. Even if you don't think so. Even the haters. You're meant to be here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And lastly, as always, be kind. Life is definitely short, and it's a lot of stress going on, a lot of things going on around us, and people get pretty snappy and say things maybe they shouldn't say, and before you bounce back and bark back like I've learned how to not do, take a breath, think before you speak. You don't have to be an ass, but you don't have to take a lot of crap from people either. Just be kind, okay? You just don't know, including yourself. We're all going through things. It's not what we do, it's how we do it and what we do about it. Again, my name is Peter G. I want to thank you for watching Life of Peter G, The Peter G Show. We'll see you next week. Next week, just going to have to wait to see what's next week, because I don't even have time to go into that right now. We are running way over time. But either way, it's always fun-packed, all right? I love you guys. I truly do. And again, peace out. I love you. Bye.
Peter G Show, Peter G Show, divorced dad, single dad, divorced dad, single dad, Peter G Show.